beautiful followers. How is everyone doing on this beautiful Saturday? Beautiful Saturday. I am just in an amazing mood. I had to go run a quick errand, but headed back home to get ready. I'm going to go head out tonight, have a good time. But it has just been a really great day. It's been a really great day. I got to sleep in a little bit, which I never do, but I slept in. I was a little bit lazy, which was nice. Definitely nice to get some just extra rest and relaxation in. I booked a vacation, which was fun. Yeah, late last night. So it's I woke up to definitely just being in a really good mood, and I had taken some time and vibrated my energy a little bit. Got some of my energy moving yesterday. Not that it wasn't moving already, but I was working on some energetic blocks that I have, because we all have our own little energetic blocks. And so I woke up just in a great mood, saw some great clients today. It's just been a really, really great day. And so when I was driving to go run my errand earlier, this topic came in, the topic that you're listening to right now. And I went, I'm in a great mood. Why are we going to go there? That feels really low vibe. Talking about trauma when I'm feeling so good and I have this energy pulsing. I have this sexual energy, this kundalini energy, which would be more exact, kind of pulsing through my body. I mean, my teeth are vibrating right now, which is always fun. It's always fun when your teeth vibrate. But, so I have this amazing energy, and so I'm kind of really, am I going to talk about that? But that is really what Spirit brought me today. I had 2 client sessions today that talked about trauma in some form or fashion, and kind of the outcomes of trauma and what they were seeing. And it just so happens that the reason that the last few weeks or month or so has been so amazing for me, has been so truly transformational energetically, has been because of trauma. And I know you might be like, huh? And so before I get into this, I do want to say this could be a little triggering. If you are somebody who is very, if you have just experienced a trauma, or if it's right there, this might be a little triggering. So I do want to be compassionate about that and warn you before we get into this topic. I won't go too deep into anything, but we may get into some icky, nitty-gritty details that you might not like. So anyway, like I said, the last few months, I've been really doing a bunch of re-trauma work. So work that I had already done before and had kind of come back around and was like, I need to do this again. There was one gentleman, actually, it all started with, I was at a retreat, and there was one gentleman who reminded me of somebody from a very, very long time ago, a childhood friend's father who did actually molest me. We had this, it was very traumatizing at the time when I was younger, and this gentleman reminded me of that person. And so I noticed that. I really just got in my body. I was like, whew, this person is triggering the fuck out of me. This person triggers me and it has nothing to do with him. And so I did some work around that, and I ended up really moving through it with this person at this workshop, at this retreat. And it was so amazing because I felt so empowered after that. I felt so incredibly empowered, and I felt my energy start to move a little bit more. Move in a way that I hadn't moved in a very long time. Then fast forward a little bit into a couple weeks later, and a couple months prior, I had been asked about something. I actually had been having a conversation with Kendall Williams. Those of you who know my bestie, I had a conversation with Kendall, and she asked me some question, and it had to relate to my sex, my relationship, something. And I went home to think about it, and all of a sudden, and it was not really directed towards trauma, but all of a sudden this trauma memory came up. And I was like, wow, because it had a fucking massive full was so incredibly like profound that it actually shook me to my core. Like, I ended up sitting down in my shower and I just like breathed, because it had a massive force. And in this force, I went, wow, I thought I'd worked through this. This is over. This is done. This is why is this coming back up right now? And it was because it wanted to be released. Because then I went and a couple weeks ago, I took some other friends and I faced this trauma. So I had been gang raped at one point a couple of years back, and I ended up going and really kind of going back to the place that it happened and really processing through it, really putting myself back in that situation and what I was wearing and how I had my hair and the whole 9 yards. And I don't suggest this for people to do all the time, because if you have not processed through your trauma and you put yourself back, as my old therapist feels like coming out and being like, if you put yourself back in that situation without the support, without having prior to that really work through your shit, that can be actually re-traumatizing. But for me, I knew I needed to go and face this. I needed to face this. And the next morning I woke up after, I mean, there were tears, there was lots of stuff. Like the energy, I got energy drunk too, just from the amount of energy that ended up releasing in my body at this point. And the next morning I woke up and I had this sensation of like all this sexual energy, all this sexual arousal, which felt very, very contradictory to what I was really processing, because it wasn't arousing, it wasn't a turn on to me at the time. It was actually very deep and very emotional. And so I had this like mind fuck of like, why, even though I understand from a psychological perspective why I had all this arousal. But I'm telling you this because since processing through those things, again, because I had already processed through them, I thought, done my work on them. But obviously my spirit and my soul was like, you need to go through this again. You need to process through it. Like, there is more healing to do. There is more gifts, more blessings, because I very much believe my soul needed those experiences in order to teach me something, in order to move me in a direction. I'm not saying that it is a good thing to get raped. It's a good thing to be abused. Like, that is not what I'm saying. But my soul, from a deep level, like true spiritual level, needed this. And I can learn the lesson and I can get a blessing from it. And my blessing came in that my energy, since processing through all of that, has been fucking profound. I feel like I released pieces of me that I didn't know were still shut, that I didn't know were still kind of closed down. I released desires. My desires are flying all over the place, like where I'm like, whoo, girl, you're gonna have to slow it down a little bit. Whoo. And my energy, like I said, like right now I have like vibrations in my teeth even. Like my Kundalini energy is like so profoundly moving and intense and beautiful. And my entire world has shifted just by releasing trauma. And my topic today is not just like, yes, I get it. You might go, I know I need to release trauma. I know, I got it. You know, we all know that we should be working through our shit. Though, oftentimes, when we have trauma, and this next weekend, next Saturday, is Female Orgasm Camp. And while Female Orgasm Camp isn't about trauma, you can't talk about female orgasm and not talk about trauma. You can't do it. Because there is so much trauma in the feminine, trauma in the masculine too, unfortunately. But there is so much trauma that happens that we numb out. We numb out in so many ways. We numb out in our physical, we numb out in our emotional, we numb out in our spiritual. And oftentimes we don't even realize, because we're numb, we don't see the places where we truly need to lean into. And what we end up doing is going, that hurts, that's uncomfortable, I'm just going to avoid it. So instead of leaning into our trauma, we diverge over to the side. We avoid dealing with it. We go, I've dealt with it, I've talked about it, or we go, I'm not talking about it. And that is something we do often, is I'm not going to talk about that trauma, which I can tell you, when you don't talk about your trauma, it makes it worse. It makes it more profound. It makes it harder to move through. It makes it harder to move through because when you're unwilling to talk about something, oftentimes you're putting more energy into it. I can tell you, thinking about going and dealing with my trauma was harder than just going and fucking dealing with it. Going and dealing with it. And yes, it was hard. And I'm not telling people to rush through their processing, because we process it when we process at the level, at the speed that we need to process. What I'm saying is, I hear, as a sex and relationship coach, I hear trauma used as an excuse so often. And it's a pretty damn good fucking excuse, in truth. Like, it's a good excuse. However, it's also not. Because when we don't work through our trauma, when we don't allow it to release, we shut our sex down. We shut our energy down. Just like I said, like, I didn't realize that there were pieces of my sexual energy that were still locked down, that I hadn't worked through, that I hadn't opened until I had all this energy freaking flood into my being. And I feel so grateful for it, because my spirit told me it's time to go deal with it at this level, at this next level. Because guess what? We're always processing through things at new levels. It's like going up a circular staircase. You may have processed through something, but each time you reprocess through it, it's at another level. And it is the vibration in which you're processing it through. Like I said at the beginning of this video, like trauma, like, oof, like I'm in a great freaking mood today. I'm like high vibing. Am I really going to talk about trauma? That feels very dark. But in truth, it's not. It's not. It's going, wow, like this is a lesson. This is a blessing. Like, look at all the energy that I was able to release in this. Look at how amazing I'm feeling because I was able to do this work. I was able to recognize, yes, like there's still work to be done. Instead of ignoring it, instead of numbing it out any longer. And that's what we like to do. We like to avoid it. We like to put it on the back burner. We like to go, oh, I processed through it. I don't need to process through it again. But if your spirit is wanting you to process through it, it's time. And if you're recognizing that you're struggling in the bedroom, if you're struggling to touch yourself, if you're struggling to touch a partner, if you're struggling with shame in your sex, or even like having disconnected sex. So sometimes we think that sexual trauma means that we have to, we will shut down. Instead, sometimes we do the opposite. We throw our sex all over the place. We throw our sex all over the place with no, like, kind of willy-nilly, like, and it's because we're not present, we're not tapping in. And so my message to you guys all today is that releasing trauma can be amazing in its outcome. But just like anything, it requires some discomfort. It wasn't comfortable for me to go and like face this moment in my life that was really hard. Like, no, it wasn't easy. Like, there were tears, there was crying, there was anger, there was emotion. But at the other end of that, there's beauty. And I remember when I first started not even my coaching practice, when I first started my sexual work, because there was a long time that I was very shut down. I was very closed off. I was like the epitome of like if you would have told me I was going to be a sex coach, I would have laughed at you. I would have totally laughed at you. Because I was so shut down, because I hadn't really done my work. And I remember a time when I was so shut down, but then I had to push myself to do things that were really uncomfortable. And even outside of straight up trauma work, I mean, like, things that I went, I can't do that. That doesn't sound fun to me. I remember even like touching my own body felt so uncomfortable. Felt so incredibly uncomfortable back then. Because I was like, this is wrong. I don't want to do this. This kind of hurts. I remember getting my G-spot worked on, and it just like burning and feeling like it was tearing, like it just hurt, okay? Like, let's be real, it hurt. Because I went from numb to it being painful to it being so fucking pleasurable, to it being so incredibly pleasurable to me. And that's oftentimes how our healing works. We go from or a pain state, and then eventually as we work through our shit, we get to this pleasure state. We get to this space of like deep pleasure. But it takes us really pushing through those moments of numbness where we're like, I'm not feeling anything. And then also pushing through those moments where we're like, ooh, like that kind of hurts. I'm not telling you to go be in pain, like, oh, like go really hurt yourself. That's not what we're talking about here. I'm talking about that like pain where like, ooh, like that's just a little uncomfortable, but I'm going to slow down. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to communicate, whatever it might be. But unless we do that work, we're never going to move through our trauma, our holdbacks, our blocks, because trauma goes beyond just sexual trauma. Trauma is just like big. Like we all have experienced trauma. Every single person, if you are living, has experienced some kind of trauma. That's just being human. That's just being human. So as we move through this trauma, then we can get to the bliss. Then we can get to more opening. And I can tell you that the opening, once you really work through that stuff, is so profound. It's so amazing. It fills you. And then you can connect with others. You can connect with others. You can feel the world a little bit differently. I can tell you, I've been walking through the last month or so, more connected to my pussy, more connected to my physical body than I've been in a while. And like I said, I didn't realize that there was these little keys that were numbed out, that I wasn't present to. So yeah, like even the sex coach still is learning, still is expanding, still is deepening. And so my message to you is, trauma's not positive. I'm like, yay, you were raped, yay, you were abused, yay, like yay, you had this traumatic moment happen. Like that's not what we're going for. But it's a look at like, okay, what's the blessing, and where can I use this to push myself forward? Where can I grow? Where do I need to push into? Where can I just fucking claim my pleasure back? Where can I claim my body back, my presence level back, wherever it might be. But ignoring it isn't working. Ignoring it, those soul callings that tell you it's time to work through this, ignoring it is only holding you back. It's only going to hold you back. You're not going to get better without actually facing it. And facing it in a loving way. Facing it in a positive way, too. Facing it in a more high vibe energy and not in a victim mentality. So it does require you first doing that inner work. And yes, having that time to process through it and have your tears and have your emotions. But then also realizing that you have the power. You're in control. You have the power to move through it. You have the power to breathe into it. And your spirit is going to tell you when you're ready. Like I said, I would not recommend somebody being like, well, just throw yourself back into the trauma situation exactly where you are. Put your hair exactly in the position it was when you were raped. Go put on clothes. I actually would not recommend that. Yet, that is exactly what I needed. I needed to go back to that space and be like, I'm not this person anymore. I'm safe. All the stuff that I had to actually look at and breathe into. But it is about listening to your soul of, okay, what's the next step? What's the next step in my healing? My healing, even if you can't even point to specific trauma points, what's the next step in my healing, and why am I avoiding the uncomfortable? Why am I avoiding my uncomfortable? So ask yourself that. So, other than that, next Saturday, get your ass in the door for Female Orgasm Camp. We might be almost sold out. I don't know. I don't have the numbers. I have to talk to Kendall. But I think we're pretty much almost sold out. So if you still want, I know there are a few more seats. We can make extra room. So get your ass in the door. Again, we're not doing this workshop again for another year. So please, please do not hesitate to jump in there. It's an amazing workshop. It is more than just teaching you the tips, tricks, and techniques of how to touch a woman. It goes so much beyond that. It's how to really make love to your woman. It's about how to drop into your sex a little bit more. It's about experiencing orgasm in a way you may not have ever experienced your orgasm. So whether you're a man, a woman, a couple, you are totally welcome at this workshop. It is in the DFW area, and go to addisonbell.net and you can register. It's in my events page. Other than that, go have a fucking amazing rest of your Saturday, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another Addison Unleashed. Bye, guys.